Mike B, you're up next. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Got a
Cool.
got a hand for us?
So I got a hand for you guys, for you from the Gardens, 5-5 game.
By the way, do me a favor. If you like this black backdrop here for the call-in show, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But people seem to like how this looks. I'm actually working with a guy, hopefully, where we might be able to get some sort of real-time graphics with the call-in stream. It's just so hard, though. And of course, like I said, we take the best hands anyways and do them after the fact. But I think it's easier on the eyes. All right, so gardens in Hawaiian Gardens, California, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And what's the size of the game?
So it's a 5-5 game, 600 cap.
Is it 600 or 800 in that game? Or was it
Uh, th-
800 at one time or no?
no, 800 is the 5-5-10.
Oh,
That's
okay.
that's the 800 cap.
Yeah, I mean, I always say this when people call them these LA hands. It's just really, really insane when you take a look at how much money is taken out of these pots. I think it's 7 by the river here. It might even be 8 across all yellow chip games in LA. And this is a drop, not a rake, meaning that the entire amount is taken on the flop, plus one. It's not like a percentage. Like if one guy limps in and the blinds check, they're gonna take the full amount on the flop, which is just insane when you think about it. But
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So how deep are you?
So this hand, 1.4K effective.
Okay.
Uh, the villain's sitting with about 2,000. I'll give you a little backstory on him real quick. He came to the table about an hour and a half ago, and he's ran pure for the whole time. I've already got sizing tells on him, and I felt like I got his game down pretty well. So in this hand, there's a limp under the gun too,
Okay.
and he's next to act,
Mhm.
and he raises to 20,
Okay.
and that's a sizing tell for weakness. I've already seen him open 15 with small pairs and suited connectors. Then I've also seen him raise 25 with what I assume were premium hands, but they didn't go to showdown.
Yeah. I mean, this is straight out of a small stakes exploit. Of course, the small stakes exploit series and Crush Light Poker. I mean, there's only one limp, but one of the small stakes exploits, of course, is like when somebody opens to a size that they would just normally open to without limpers. Like it goes limp, 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 and the guy makes it 20. It's almost never, ever a strong hand, which is, it seems to me like what you're talking about, unless they're actually trying to like play it tricky and trying to get somebody to raise. So okay, he goes to 20.
So he goes to 20. I'm
Yeah.
in the hijack, and I have ace queen of hearts, and
Okay.
I three bet to 65,
So 3 bet to 65. Okay.
and he calls.
So
So
just heads up, limpers out.
heads up, pot's 135.
So you don't think he has a strong hand, like a suited connector, small pair, something like that. That's your sort of
Yeah,
gut right now.
I put him on, yeah, like a mediocre hand,
Okay.
medium strain.
Okay.
So the flop is ace of spades,
hmm
queen of diamonds,
Yep.
eight of clubs,
Ah, nice. Right in order. So top two. Not bad.
the top two. Yeah.
Yep. hmm
Uh, pre pre-flop razor checks.
hmm
I elect to c bet one third. I c bet 45, and villain calls.
So this one's a little bit, this one's interesting in the sense that not so much exactly similar to the other call, but whenever you see these two Broadway types of boards here, especially, I mean, last time we had the Queen Jack X. Here we've got the Ace Queen 8, and you hit it pretty hard. I'm just trying to think. Like my gut reaction here with this particular hand would actually be to size up somewhat, where you're still going to get the calls from Ace X, you're still going to get the calls from Queen X. You've got some Broadway straight draws out there, and really like the small pairs that you were talking about or suited connectors just aren't going to continue. So it might be a slight exploit given sort of the quote unquote live node background of what his preflop range is. And what I mean by that is that you've sort of discounted a fair amount of hands from his preflop range based upon some action here. And even though this board might miss him quite a bit because of that, he still will have some of it, and you can still probably get the value by going a little bit larger. It's an interesting one in terms of what a optimal response would be. I mean, I don't necessarily know off the top of my head, but okay, so you go to the small sizing and he calls.
Yeah. So you think you'd size it to like what, 60 to 75?
No, I think I would go like 100. The pot's 135, right?
Yeah.
I think I'd go like 75 to 100 maybe.
Okay, so more like
Yeah,
2/3.
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay. So he calls the flop bet.
Mhm.
Pot is 225,
Yep.
and the turn is the king of spades, putting a backdoor flush draw.
Yeah, it also brings in Jack 10, which is double gutted,
Yes,
right? Yeah,
yes,
I
yes.
mean
It
that's.
also brings me back.
I mean, I don't know if. I mean, it sounds to me like your backstory right off the bat is you never think the guy's got Ace King.
Exactly.
So you know,
I do think he could have king queen, like maybe king queen off.
right. Okay.
That was a possibility. So villain checks,
Mhm.
and I bet 115 into 225, and villain calls.
So you put in 230 here on the turn, so the pot's 455. Let's just think about your sizing here a little bit.
Put in right around half on the turn.
Yeah, so it's a king of spades, so it puts a backdoor spade draw out there. It's ace of spades, queen of diamonds, eight of clubs, king of spades, queen x of spades is possible. King 10 and king jack pair up here as well. Playing 1400 effective. I think I would still probably go 2/3 here. I got to be honest with you. I think I would
Okay.
go. I think I'd probably go, yeah, 160. I mean, again, it's kind of subtle. I think I'd probably go like 160 because it's like, what is he calling you with on the flop? Like, what's the range of hands you think he has here?
I think he could have maybe like queen 10, queen 9, queen jack, possibly king queen.
So that bottom part of his range that you're talking about, the queen X portion, queen 10, queen 9. I don't. Now that the king comes here, do you see how like 115 is probably going to get those hands to fold out anyway? So we're not really concerned about that portion of the range. That's why I
Yeah,
want to get more value here. That's why I want to bet larger because those hands are going to fold out anyways, you know?
yeah, I
So,
got you.
I mean, now that he's called, let's assume that's how we do structured hand reading, right? Like, let's assume that the bottom parts of those flop calling ranges are out now, right? Like Queen X that doesn't pick up a straight draw,
Yeah, yeah.
8X that without a backdoor. You're sort of left with Ace X and some of these other Broadway. Maybe King Queen, maybe King Jack, maybe King 10. Still a fair amount of Ace X, something like that. So 455 to the river, okay?
And I just want to say that on the turn when he doesn't check raise, I eliminate that he has 10 jack.
You think he would always fast play, you mean?
I feel like yeah, most opponents are always check raising there with 10 jack.
Well, I mean, I probably agree with you for the most part. And the reason why they do that, even though possibly against a good player, even though I'm never, a huge proponent of advocating slow playing in live games, but against a good opponent, sometimes it can be a good idea to have some strong hands here with a check call so the guys can't just liberally barrel you off. The reason why in your game players will check raise here is because if they don't do that and they check the river, guys will check back like ace queen they might even check back ace king at the end. So it's like, and they're not necessarily thinking on that level, but it's just, they sort of see it happen. So, all right. So 455 to the river.
And the river is a three of spades.
All right. So backdoor spades come in now.
Yeah. Villain checks.
Okay. So ace, queen, eight, rainbow, ace of spades, queen of diamonds, eight of clubs. Obviously hero went, the three bet to 65. A guy called. Hero went 1/3 on flop. He called. Hero went sort of halfish on turn on the king of spades turn. He's called. Pot's 455, and now the river runs out the back door three of spades. Now, I'm gonna play along with you and assume that I think it's a good background. Let's play like you are fairly accurate with your with your sort of range analysis about this player and about what would happen here. I mean, if you're not concerned really about Jack 10, sure, he might have run into like Queen X of spades. He might have run into 8X of spades here too, but I mean, if I'm not really concerned that I was ever not beaten by Jack 10 or not beaten by Ace King, then it's probably a bet here. Now, if you don't know that, it's much, much closer. I would still probably lean towards, some betting, but I mean, if you can sort of picture putting back into the opponent's range the possibility of him having Ace King off or slow playing off Jack 10, you can see how it's sort of much closer.
Do you think without the sizing tells pre-flop, you could possibly check this back?
I think it's more to do with the fact that you don't think he has Jack 10, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
really do. I mean, because then you're really just left with like Queen Jack of spades, right? Queen 10 of spades. And I mean, if he defends with like Queen 9 of spades and some like maybe 8X of spades types holdings, right? I mean, I guess he could have some 9-10 or Jack 9 of spades too. So there's some in there. But I mean, that's like 5 or 6 combos. And I just think
Right.
that there's a lot of ace X here, unless you just don't think that he raises to this size with ace X, you know? So,
Yeah. So river villain checks, and I bet 215.
all right. So check again. And what are you targeting here?
I'm targeting an ace. I'm hoping he has maybe a bad ace. Maybe he has a worse two pair.
Hmm.
I really thought it's possible he could have king queen.
So king, queen, ace, jack, ace 10, something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I might. So, I mean, you guys have some stack depth here. I mean, I might go a little bit on, maybe a little bit on the larger side, maybe like 250 to 275. But I'm glad you bet here, though. I think.
I was glad too until he check raises and
Well,
he makes it 500.
well. So now MP1 raises to 500, and it looks like the pot would be 1170
Yeah,
and about just under 300 for you to call. So you're getting incredible pot odds. However, if there was ever, is that right? 11, it's
11.
1170, 285 for you to call.
Yeah,
Well,
about
that's,
4 to 1.
yeah, that's juicy pot odds. But I mean, my God, here's the pro. I mean, my reaction is still, no matter what the pot odds here, I think I'm probably
I
even
know.
folding because the issue too is that, again, another small stakes CLP small stakes exploit is like, you got to find a hand that he's bluffing with the backdoor spade coming in. People at this level just don't like, they don't have like queen jack with the jack of spades here and turn it into a bluff enough, because
Yeah.
really the bluffs that he would have are all paired once the spade comes, right? Like, what is he continuing with on the turn that is not a flush, that is not paired here?
I mean, the only thing I could think of is king queen.
Yeah, but he's not going to check raise king queen. You think he's valuing himself though?
I,
Because
I,
you've
I
got ace king here and backdoor spades. I mean, I think that's almost just as unlikely. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, in this game, almost nobody is check raising rivers as bluffs, and
Yeah, of course.
I just thought like I've watched an hour and a half of this guy, and he was clicking a lot of buttons. He was just running pure, and I just thought he could be doing this with king queen.
Well, I mean, if he's a special player, then fine. But if we look at this, like I said, from kind of what a typical live player falls into, and I can't stress this enough, of just, I think this is a perfect example of it, actually, where I almost want to take this hand and put it in one of the quiz questions for that particular small stakes exploit, which I think is exploit. I mean, you can help me out here because I just did the quiz. I think it's exploit 15 over in the coursework for Crush Live Poker, right before chip spiking. Opponents don't turn enough hands into bluffs that he can't not have anything here. You know what I mean? Like, you could look at this like it'd be like, well, if someone's gonna have, like, somebody might turn who was really, really good, like queen jack off with the jack of spades into a bluff, or ace jack with it, with the jack of spades, or queen jack, yeah, with the queen of spades into a bluff, something like that. But I just don't see it. What ended up happening here?
So you're just finding a fold here?
I do, man. Unless I mean,
Yeah.
it would have to be a really, really special dude.
He was pretty special, but I ended up calling just
Uh,
because he was a little bit special,
mhm.
and he had 10-8 of spades.
Okay, so he had one of those straight draws that backed into it. Well, he had 8x of spades. 8x of spades. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
So you were right on about his pre-flop stuff, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No, it's interesting. He actually turned the world? Well, the world.
yeah.
I mean,
That
he's got a
that was an amazing
pair.
turn for him.
He's got a pair. His two pair outs, of course, aren't good. But what would have happened if the river was an 8? What would happen if the river was an 8 and he checked you and you bet and then he raised you? That's kind of interesting, because at least then I still might overfold. But if the river's an offsuit 8 here, at least then you can sometimes find some straight draw flush draws that might end up with nothing and bluff, like 9-10 of spades, jack 9 of spades. If the river was like the 8 of hearts, here you can't find it at all,
Yeah.
So, all right, man. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it.